the hidden weapon nobody saw coming. Opening visuals slow zoom on a dollar bill, eyes of ancient statues fading into stock market screens. Narrator's serious tone. What if I told you money, the thing we trust most, wasn't designed to help us trade, but to control us? Every coin, every note, every digital transaction has been part of a centuries-long plan, not just to measure value, but to reshape human behavior. Because money was never neutral. It was weaponized. And the story of how that happened, from ancient kingdoms to modern banks, is the story of how power learned to wear the mask of economics. Beat of silence title appears. The secret timeline of how money was weaponized. Stage setting the birth of value and control. Narrator. Before money, there was trust. Thousands of years ago, communities traded what was real: grain, livestock, salt, metals, things that had value because they were useful or rare. But kings and rulers faced a problem: how do you tax, control, or build empires if everyone trades privately? The answer was currency. When the first coins appeared around 600 BC in Lydia, they weren't just tools for trade, they were symbols of state control. The ruler's face stamped on metal wasn't decoration, it was ownership. Every transaction that used that coin silently acknowledged. The king owns the system. Cut to visual: ancient minting soldiers distributing coins. This was the first stage of weaponization: monopoly over money creation. Once rulers could decide what counted as money, they could also decide who had it and who didn't. Origins from metal to power. Narrator. As centuries passed, this power evolved. Gold and silver coins traveled the world, from Persia to Rome, from China to Europe, but one thing remained constant. Whoever controlled the mint controlled the empire. Rome proved it. When the empire expanded, so did its need for funds. Soldiers, roads, palaces, all demanded endless spending. So what did emperors do when they ran out of gold? They diluted it. Each new coin had less precious metal, but the same face value. Visual: Roman coins getting thinner, inflation rising. Prices skyrocketed, people lost faith, and the empire crumbled from within. The weapon backfired, but the idea survived: control the currency, control the civilization. Rise: the banking revolution. Narrator. After Rome fell, Europe descended into chaos until a new power quietly rose from the ashes: the money changers. Medieval bankers like the Medici family in Florence discovered something revolutionary: money didn't need to be made of gold to be powerful, it only needed trust. They began issuing paper notes, early versions of receipts and loans, and for the first time private institutions held the power to create money out of debt. Not kings, not emperors. Bankers. Visual: stacks of ledgers, church vaults, secret meetings. This was the second stage of weaponization, turning money into debt. By lending to rulers at interest, bankers gained invisible control. Wars, crusades, and royal marriages, all financed by the same families who stayed behind the curtain. Money stopped being about exchange, it became a contract of dependency. Breaking point: the birth of the central bank. Narrator. By the 17th century, Europe had learned one thing: debt was power, but chaos, without coordination, could destroy nations. Enter 1694. A group of wealthy merchants approached King William III of England with an offer. We'll fund your wars, in return give us the right to issue the nation's money. And just like that, the Bank of England was born. This was the third and most crucial weaponization: centralized credit creation. Money creation was no longer a sovereign act, it was outsourced to private financiers. Every pound issued was borrowed with interest. And that idea spread like wildfire to France, America, and beyond. Fallout: the 20th century money trap. Narrator. Fast forward to 1913. In a secret meeting on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia, the world's top bankers and politicians drafted a new kind of institution: the Federal Reserve. It looked like a government agency, but it wasn't. It was a cartel of private banks granted the power to print money for the U.S. government at interest. Once again, the same pattern repeated. Governments borrowed. Citizens paid through taxes. Banks collected through interest. Visual: 1929 stock crash, Great Depression scenes. In 1971, President Nixon made the final move. He ended the gold standard. From that moment on, money was no longer tied to anything real. It became pure credit numbers backed only by debt. This was the moment money became fully weaponized, a digital leash controlled by those who could issue it endlessly. Failed fixes, every reform becomes a trap. Narrator. Every attempt to fix the system only made it more powerful. After each crash, 1929, 2008, even the 2020 stimulus era, the same medicine was prescribed: print more, borrow more, spend more. But each rescue deepened the dependence. Because in this system, money can only exist if someone owes it. Visual global debt counterticking. In 1980, global debt was around $5 trillion. Today, it's over $300 trillion. And for every dollar created, someone somewhere owes more than they can ever repay. Modern parallels the digital chains. Narrator. Now, as we move into a cashless age, the next stage is unfolding digital centralization. Central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, promise convenience, but they also promise something else: programmable money. Imagine a currency that can expire, be restricted, or be frozen based on your behavior or social score. It's not a conspiracy, it's already being tested in over 130 countries. Visual digital wallets, surveillance cameras, biometric payments. Money is no longer just an economic tool. It's a behavioral weapon. When you can't move money freely, you don't need bars to build a prison. 3 takeaways. Narrator. So, what can we learn from this secret timeline? First, money has always been designed to serve power, not the people. From ancient kings to modern bankers, control over currency means control. Currency means control over lives. Second, every time money evolved, metal, paper, digital, it came with a trade-off: convenience in exchange for freedom. Third, real wealth was never paper or pixels, it was always energy, time, skill, and trust, the things no one can print. Final warning and call to action. Narrator's slow, reflective tone. The weaponization of money didn't happen overnight. It happened because humanity traded understanding for comfort, awareness for illusion. But history is repeating itself. The same pattern that began in ancient Lydia, that passed through Rome, the Medici, the Bank of England, and the Federal Reserve, is now being reborn in the digital age. And the question is no longer what is money? It's who controls it and why. If we don't ask that now, one day, we won't be able to ask it at all. Soft music swells. Narrator. Final line. If this opened your eyes, share it. Because the timeline isn't over, it's being written right now. Fade out with title card: The Secret Timeline of How Money Was Weaponized.